Hi, boys and girls. It's Mrs. Hartigan again, and I'm going to continue with Kittens in the Kitchen. And just to recap a little bit, Mandy and James went looking for the cat Walton to see if she had her kittens, and they were hoping to find the kittens on the front porch, but found them instead inside in a laundry basket. They weren't happy about that, so they got the custodian to agree that it would be okay to have the kittens stay in the laundry basket, even though he wasn't happy about it. But he did agree. So I'm going to, reread a little bit that we read last week just to get us going again. Mr. Williams pointed an accusing finger at the basket. "My best blue shirt, my favorite," he reminded her angrily. But it was the last trace of resistance. He knew when he was beaten. "Now, Eric, it won't come to any harm. This young girl knows all about animals, don't you?" Mandy nodded and gasped. "My mom and dad are both vets in Welford at Animal Art." Mrs. Williams nodded too. "See, she's a good girl. She promised to come in here twice a day to help look after those poor little things. They won't get under your feet. They'll just stay in there nice and cozy while Walton tends to them." "Walton," Mr. Williams interrupted, looking curiously at Mandy. "The mother cat," Mrs. Williams said, steady as ever. "Crazy name for a cat," he grumbled. But he was definitely weakening. "Well?" the fierce little woman demanded. "Well," he scratched his lined forehead with broad work-worn fingers. "All right, that's settled," she said, like a suitcase snapping shut. "The girl will come in here each day until the kittens can begin to fend for themselves." Mr. Williams grunted. "That means yes," she reported to Mandy and James. Mandy jumped up from the table, able to breathe at last. "Oh, thank you," she said in a rush. "I'll go right away and get some food and extra vitamins and things for Walton. I'll be back as soon as I can. Walton will need lots of looking after, being such a small cat, and we may have to help her feed her kittens. I'll bring milk and a dropper just in case. She won't have that much milk herself, and 4 is a lot for her to feed, especially being so run down when she was a stray. We'll need to—" "Whoa, hold your horses!" Mr. Williams backed off against the wall. "Not so fast." He turned to James. "Now listen, boy. Maybe I can talk sense to you." James stood at attention, ready to listen. "Man to man, I'm telling you straight. My wife Amy is too soft-hearted by far. Everyone knows that. And I've agreed to let those darn kittens stay put on top of my shirts because of her. I don't like it, but I want a quiet life. And when my wife makes up her mind about something, I generally give in." Mrs. Williams smiled at Mandy, her hands clasped meekly in front of her. "But," said Mr. Williams, "I just want to give your girlfriend here a word of warning." Mandy saw James's face turn red at the word girlfriend. But Mr. Williams thundered on. "Now, I'm a mild-mannered guy, but before you both go running off for food and vitamins and whatever else, I want to make it clear that I won't put up with these smelly things camping out in my best shirts for a day longer than necessary. Is that clear?" James nodded. Mandy moved over to the door to stand beside him. They watched Mr. Williams's face take on the old angry look. "Quiet life or not, I'll give you just 1 week," he warned. "And that'll be that. After that, it's the end for the nasty little creatures." Mandy felt her heart go thump. She felt the blood drain from her face. "What do you mean?" "I mean what I say. I'm giving you 7 days. Find good homes for those kittens within the week, or else—" He stood with his feet planted wide apart, his face like a storm. "Or else what?" Mandy gasped. "Or else I'll deal with them myself." He turned and stamped out of the kitchen, slamming the door after him. James and Mandy flew back home on their bikes. up and down the hills to Welford. At the back of her mind hammered the horrible phrase, "deal with them myself," meaning what? Pictures of kittens drowning, hanging, being dumped in a sack by the side of a highway flashed through her head. She yelled goodbye to James at the turn near the Fox and Goose Tavern and hurried on up the road to Animal Ark. When she arrived, she threw down her bike in the backyard and rushed straight into the office. "Mom!" she called. She dashed past Jean Knox in the reception, who was busy signing out Miss Martin's Yorkshire Terrier, Snap. Jean looked up and smiled. "She's in the exam room," she said, but the door was already swinging shut. "Mom!" Mandy showed herself down and lowered her voice so as not to disturb the animals in their rows of cages and kennels. "Hi, Mandy, over here," Dr. Emily called. She had a blue-gray Persian cat up on the treatment table and was carefully feeling behind her left ear. She gave the cat a gentle stroke and popped him back in his carrier. "You're just about ready to go home," she promised. She turned to Mandy. "Now, what's all the drama?" Her mom stood there in her white coat. She wore her long red hair tied back as usual, but it was always escaping. With her big green eyes and friendly face, Dr. Emily had the knack of calming Mandy down. The school cat had 4 kittens, she reported. "Ah," Dr. Emily smiled. "That explains the newspapers. Good bedding for a birth. Did you get there in time?" "Yes, but she didn't like the place on the porch that we fixed up for her." Mandy fiddled with the catch on the Persian's basket. "No, they often don't." Dr. Emily hooked her thumbs in her coat pockets. So she gave birth in the custodian's kitchen instead, and Mr. Williams, the custodian, hates cats. Mandy looked at her mother with her wide blue eyes. Ah, Dr. Emily settled back against the table. Dr. Adam came out of one of the treatment rooms to join them. "Mom," Mandy began to plead, "he's given us a week. We have to find homes for 4 kittens in a week. Otherwise, he's threatening to take them off somewhere and put them down." Dr. Emily looked at her husband. "It's not fair," Mandy exploded. "He cares more about his stupid shirts than about the lives of 4 innocent animals. How can anyone be so mean?" "Calm down, Mandy," Dr. Adams said. He was rubbing his beard thoughtfully. "What's this about shirts?" Mandy explained. "Anyway, the kittens will be up and about in a few days. Then it will be okay to move them out of that stupid basket. Then he can have his rotten shirts back." "Mandy," her mother warned, "don't be rude. Some people just don't like cats, and you have to accept that." She lifted the cat basket and began to head for reception. Mandy realized that her chance was slipping by. "Mom," she said, "can I take some milk and some vitamins back over there tonight?" She knew from watching her parents at work in Animal Ark what help Walton would need to feed the kittens. "Of course," Dr. Emily nodded. She was already on her way out. "And Dad, can we please take the kittens in here at the end of the week?" "Please," Mandy sidled up to him. Dr. Adam put an arm around her shoulder. He knew his wife was still listening. "Now, Mandy, you know our rules about that." "I know, Dad, but this is different." Mr. Williams was going to kill the poor little things if she couldn't find them homes. "We don't take in strays, you know that. We're not a charity, remember. We're vets." Mandy guessed that it was a rule he might have bent a little, but his wife had a very firm business head. She came back toward them. "The answer's got to be no, Mandy." Dr. Emily was kind but firm. She put the cat basket down and spoke gently. "Listen, the custodian has already done you a favor and given you a week, hasn't he?" Mandy hung her head and nodded miserably. "It would only be for a while, Mom. We'd only have to have them for a while until Walton's finished feeding." "Then what?" Dr. Emily glanced at her husband to check. "That's right, isn't it, Adam? We can't suddenly change our rule about strays. We'd be overrun with them in no time. You've got to understand that, Mandy." Mandy nodded again. Her mom was always right, but it hurt a lot to agree with her sometimes. She thought of the 4 helpless kittens being carefully licked clean by a proud Walton. "Now listen," Dr. Adams said in his cheerful voice. "Cheer up. This is a challenge." Mandy sniffed and looked up. "How do you mean?" "You've got a whole week. Look at it that way. 1 week to find 4 good homes for 4 furry bundles of fur. You can do that." She looked up at his lopsided, cheerful grin. "I can," she agreed. "Or rather, we can." "We?" her mom asked. "Me and James." "You and James?" her mother echoed, raising her eyebrows. "Well, then." Mandy ignored her. "Yes, 4 homes for 4 kittens." Mandy began packing sterilized droppers and vitamin drops in her pockets. "Easy. No problem." "Good girl," Dr. Emily said, satisfied. Dr. Adam winked at his daughter. "That's my girl." Mandy was dashing about back to normal. "I'll come up with a plan. Just you wait." She was out through reception, jumping on her bike and pedaling up the driveway before her parents had time to draw a breath. Back at school, Mrs. Williams opened the kitchen door to her and watched as Mandy carefully lifted the lid off the laundry basket. "Hello, Walton," Mandy said gently. Inside the basket was warm and dark. The cat purred up at her. Come on and have some food." She picked up the warm, soft cat and cradled her. The 4 kittens wailed miserably. "Sorry, but Mother Cat needs looking after too," Mandy said as she closed the lid. "There," Mandy said as she set out milk and food on the kitchen floor for Walton. The cat arched her black and white back and rubbed against Mandy's legs. And then she settled quickly and daintily to her supper. "Come and look," Mandy whispered to Mrs. Williams. "Walton won't mind." Walton raised her head briefly as Mandy lifted the basket lid once more, then kept on lapping milk. They peered together in the dark nest. Clean and dry, the 4 kittens nestled on Mr. Williams' best blue shirt. Blind and helpless, but quiet now, and snuggled up against each other. "Oh my," Mrs. Williams shook her head. "They look like drowned rats." "No, they don't. They're beautiful," Mandy whispered. "Look." "Well, at any rate, they all look the same to me. All gray and furry and curled up like that." "No, they don't. They're very different. Can't you see?" And Mandy promptly decided to give them names. She picked them up one at a time. "This one's Smoky, and this one's Patch." She carefully looked at the 2 remaining kittens. "And this one's Amy, and this one's Eric." Oh, Mrs. Williams stood back slightly shocked, then pleased in spite of herself. "Are you sure? I mean, I don't know what my husband will say." She tut-tutted and smoothed her apron. Okay, boys and girls, we're going to stop there for today, and we will continue on next time. So enjoy your week until then. Bye.